Welcome back to another ukulele tutorial. Today's lesson is for beginners on the first chords you should learn when you start playing ukulele. If you recently got your first instrument and you're not sure where to start, then you've come to the right place. We're going to take a look at a handful of chords in the key of C as well as the key of G. We'll look at a couple sample songs that are 3-chord songs and 4-chord songs, and then I'll give you some practice chord progressions so you can learn how to play these chords and transition between them. Throughout this lesson, you'll find the chord diagrams, lyrics, and chord progressions on screen. You can also download them as a PDF, and you'll find the link down in the video description. I want to point out that I'm playing a tenor with a low G. If you have a high G on your instrument, you can follow this entire tutorial. Just keep in mind our chords will sound slightly different because your 4th string will be 1 octave higher than mine. We're starting off in the key of C with 3 chords. These chords are C, F, and G7. These 3 chords will allow us to play a lot of 3-chord songs. For example, this land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island. Let's take a look at how to play these 3 chords. Our C chord is played on the 3rd fret of the 1st string. This is most commonly played with our ring finger, however you can play it with your pinky. Our F chord is played with our middle finger on the 2nd fret of the 4th string and index finger on the 1st fret of the 2nd string. You can practice going from C to F using either your ring finger or your pinky for the C chord. To move from F to our G7 chord, we're going to keep our index finger right where it is on the 1st fret of the 2nd string, and we're going to place our middle finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string and ring finger on the 2nd fret of the 1st string. As you practice going back and forth from F to G7, remember that your index finger stays in place and you don't have to lift it up. As we transition from C to G7, we'll simply move our ring finger back 1 fret if we're playing C with our ring finger. So starting on C, we move our ring finger from the 3rd fret of the 1st string back to the 2nd fret of the 1st string, place down our index finger and our middle finger to form our G7 chord. If we're playing C with our pinky, then we can simply lift our pinky up and place down our other 3 fingers to form G7. Looking at our 2 sample lines for This Land Is Your Land, we're starting on our F chord, then we go to C, then to G7, and then to C. Here's how it looks to play through these 2 lines at a very slow tempo, doing 4 down strums on each chord. This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island. Once you feel comfortable playing C, F, and G7, then it's time to add 1 more chord within the key of C, and that is A minor. This will allow you to play a lot of 4-chord songs in the key of C. For example, heart and soul, I fell in love with you, heart and soul, the way a fool would do. Let's take a look at how to play our A minor chord. To play our A minor chord, we're placing our middle finger on the 2nd fret of the 4th string. To transition from A minor to F, we'll leave our middle finger right where it is and place down our index finger on the first fret of the second string to play our F chord. To play our two sample lines of Heart and Soul, we'll start on our C chord, then we'll go to A minor, then to F, and then to G7. Now I'll play through these two sample lines of Heart and Soul, playing one down strum on each chord change. Heart and soul, I fell in love with you. Heart and soul, a way of forward do. If you're enjoying this lesson, please give this video a like, and thank you so much for subscribing. Once you feel comfortable playing your 4 chords in the key of C, then it's time to move on to the key of G. We're going to start off by looking at 3 chords, and they are G, C, which we've already learned, and D7. So let's take a look at these chords and how to apply them to This Land Is Your Land. Our G chord is similar to our G7 chord, except that we're playing the 3rd fret of the 2nd string rather than the 1st fret. So we're playing our G chord by placing our middle and index fingers down on the 2nd fret of the 1st and 3rd strings, and then placing down our ring finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. Our next chord in the key of G is our C chord, which we've already learned. There are 2 ways that we can transition from G to C. One is by using our ring finger, so we can lift up our ring finger from our G chord and place it down on the 1st string to play our C chord. The other way is to lift up our fingers from our G chord and place down our pinky to play C. You can try it both ways and see if you have a preference. Our 3rd chord in the key of G is D7. We're playing this with our index finger and middle finger on the 2nd fret of the 2nd and 4th strings. When we transition from D7 to G, we're simply moving down our index and middle fingers 1 string. So we start on D7, we move both of these fingers down 1 string, and then place down our ring finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. Now going back from G to D7, we'll lift up our ring finger and move our index and middle fingers up 1 string. Now I'll play through these 2 sample lines at a nice slow tempo, playing 4 down strums on each chord. This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island. Now if you're at the point that you feel comfortable with your G, C, and D7 chords, then it's time to add in 1 more chord in the key of G, and that is E minor. Let's take a look at how to play this chord and also how to apply our chords in the key of G to Heart and Soul. I will warn you that this song is a little bit too low for my voice, but I'm going to give it a shot anyway. To play our E minor chord, I'm going to first show you the standard chord fingering, and then I'll show you a shortcut. So here is the common chord fingering for E minor. I have my index finger on the 2nd fret of the 1st string, my middle finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and my ring finger on the 4th fret of the 3rd string. This standard E minor chord fingering can be a little tricky for beginners, and it can take some time to learn, so be patient with yourself and give it some practice. Now I'm going to show you another chord fingering for E minor. And this is a nice trick to start with our G chord and then simply place down our pinky on the 4th fret of the 3rd string. So here's how it looks to go back and forth from G to E minor while we're holding down our G chord. To play our sample lines of Heart and Soul in the key of G, we're starting on our G chord, then placing down our pinky to play E minor, then we're going to our C chord, and then to D7. Now I'll play through these 2 lines at a nice slow tempo, doing 1 down strum on each chord change. Heart and soul, I fell in love with you. Heart and soul, a way a fool would do. Now that we've learned 4 chords in the key of C and 4 chords in the key of G, I'm going to give you some practice progressions to practice 3 chords and 4 chords in both keys. For all of the chord progressions, you can play them continuously as a loop, so you may want to choose one chord progression and practice it for 4 or 5 minutes at a time. This will really help your left hand to learn the chord fingerings and transition more smoothly between them. For our practice chord progressions, we're starting off in the key of C, first with our 3 chord practice. We'll start on our C chord, then we'll go to F, then to G7, and back to C. We're going to do 4 down strums on each chord. So starting on C, going to F, to G7, back to C. Next, we're adding in our A minor chord for our 4 chord practice. So starting on our C chord, going to A minor, going to F, then to G7, and back to C. For our 3 chord practice in the key of G, we're starting on our G chord, then we're going to C, then to D7, and back to G. Here's how it sounds to move through this progression, doing 4 down strums on each chord. Once you're comfortable with the 3 chord progression in the key of G, then it's time to add in our E minor chord. So here's our 4 chord progression, starting on G, then going to E minor, then to C, then to D7, and back to G. Here's how it looks playing this 4 chord progression with 4 down strums on each chord. If you wanted to practice using the traditional E minor fingering, here's how this would look. enjoyed this lesson and that you have fun applying these chords to your favorite songs. Thank you for watching.